Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of textual study of the Quran. Today we will begin the 7th surah of the Quran, which is Surah Araf, and this is actually the second surah of chapter number 2. This surah was revealed in the phase of Itmam al-Hujjah, of the preaching mission of Prophet Muhammad. So we know that this phase was something in which the Prophet was presenting his message in a way that the Quraysh were not left with any excuse to deny it. And the previous surah, which is Surah Anam, if we look at that surah, we just studied that surah, we just finished that surah last week. The bird's eye view of the surah will reveal the fact that it is the counterpart of this surah, which is Surah Araf. Both these two surahs, they form a pair, and both surahs address the Quraysh. The first surah, which is Surah Anam, was revealed in the phase of Inzar-e-Am, which means that general warning in which the Prophet was warning his addressees, and Surah Araf is revealed in the next phase, which is the phase of Itmam al-Hujjah, or conclusive communication of the truth. And as such, you will see that it actually describes the consequences of the arrival of a prophet, and it says that if you continue to deny stubbornly, not because of any confusion, but because of the fact that you are convinced, then the consequences will not be any different from the ones that were faced by previous nations. So in this surah, we also have a string of stories regarding the previous messengers of God, so that the Quraysh are informed that when they also followed suit and they similarly denied their messenger, then they were punished, and they were severely punished and almost wiped out of the face of the earth. And if the Quraysh continue with this stubbornness, and if they continue to deny a messenger of God in spite of being convinced about his veracity, then their fate is not going to be any different. And you will see that the temper of the surah, or the tone of the surah, is more stern than the previous one, which was more of a affectionate lecture, I would say, or a sermon on monotheism. In this particular surah, the tone is more strict. It intends to make them realize that the folly that they are committing is something very grave. So we start this surah, Alif Lam Mim Sad, Kitabun unzila ilayka fala yakun fi sadrika haraj minhu litunzira bihi wa zikra lil mu'minin. This is Alif Lam Mim Sad. It is this book which has been revealed to you. So, O Prophet, let not there be any anxiety in your heart because of it. It has been revealed to you so that you can warn people through it, and the believers are reminded through it. And so, as you can clearly see, that this surah begins with these abbreviated letters, which are called the Huruf al-Muqatta'at, and they are basically name. They are always a name given to the surah by the Almighty Himself. So, study of the Quran reveals that there are 29 surahs of the Quran which begin with these letters, and the way they have been referred to in the Quran and certain narratives, it becomes absolutely evident that they are the names of the surah. And as far as why they are named so, that is a question which Ustaz Hamidudin Farahi has tackled at length, and he has presented a convincing explanation by telling us that ancient Hebrew letters, which also then came to become the alphabet of the Arabic, they represented certain figures, and it's not just that they stood for an alphabet, but that alphabet had a figurative or a metaphorical or a symbolic use. For example, the letter Toy, as we call it, was generally represented in the form of a serpent, and so that is how it was written also. Similarly, we know there were other letters, like for example the letter Noon. It represented the fish, and we also know from the Quran that in Surah Qalam, which is Noon wal Qalam, the subject of the fish has come up in a very novel way, and that is the fact that when Jonah, peace be upon him, was confined to the belly of a fish, that was mentioned near the end of the surah. So it became a means to be for which something the surah was named about as well. And the Almighty has picked up these names. The way He has named the surah is that these abbreviated letters, the way they represent certain symbols, and whatever they represent is then something which is something that we know is found in the later part of the surah. Another example is Surah Taha. So Taha is a surah in which Prophet Moses and the serpent, and how the staff turned into the serpent, is mentioned in detail. And so that is why you know that the surah has this letter Ta at the beginning. And as far as this surah is concerned, Alif Lam Mim Suad, so Alif Lam Mim is the same as Alif Lam Mim Al-Baqarah, Alif Lam Mim Al Imran, and they have been variously described as these letters. They refer in their individual capacities to the oneness of God, to the fact that they also represent a cow's head, and so on and so forth. But as far as the letter Swad is concerned, we still are in a process of research to find out that what exactly does the letter Swad represent in the corpus of the Quran. But Ustaz Meezan Farahi has made an effort to find out 5 or 6 or 7 main alphabets that are used in the Quran and what they represent. And on most occasions you'll see that representation has a reflection on a certain topic that is covered in the surah, and that is how the Arabs will also name their surahs. They would pick up something very novel, something very unique, and the name of the surah would seldom represent the content of the surah. So normally as we would author a book or a chapter or any article, we would always take out the title, and that title would reflect the content. But this is not the case with the Quran in most surahs. The title is not a representative of the content. It actually represents a very small theme or a motive that might appear in a part of that surah. And that is something which the Arabs would do, and that is something which God did when we named these 29 surahs. So, Kitabun unzila ilayka fala yakun fi sadrika haraj. It is this book which has been revealed to you, and it has been revealed to you, so, O Prophet, let not there be any anxiety in your heart because of it. It has been revealed to you so that you can warn people through it, and the believers are reminded through it. And as far as this very important aspect is concerned, that this is a book that has been revealed to you, it actually tells us that it was not at the desire of the Prophet that the book was given to him. It was something which the Almighty had decided. It has not been revealed at the Prophet's request. It has been revealed without any desire on his part, and it is a decision of the Almighty. So people, if they do not accept it, then the Prophet is not responsible for them, and he should not worry, because it's not that he asked for the book and now the result of that endeavor is not going through successful times. No, it's God who chose him, and then he revealed this book to him. So in other words, the Almighty who has revealed this book to him will arrange for the completion of its dissemination, and will also provide Prophet Muhammad with all the means and resources that are needed to bring it to completion. And at another instance, you'll find something very similar. For example, in Surah Taha, we just referred to it earlier on. It is said, "Ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa." This Quran has not been revealed to you to put you in difficulty. So, in a very similar way, it is said that فَلَا يَكُنْ فِي صَدْرِكَ حَرَجٌ مِنْهُ لِتُنْزِرَ بِهِ وَذِكْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, that you don't need to be anxious or worrisome in this matter, because it's not that you who have demanded its revelation. It is I, the Almighty, who has revealed it to you, and the purpose is that you warn your people and you remind the believers. So you warn your nation and you remind the believers. So people should know that it's a warning for them. The consequences would be that they would be very severely punished if they don't pay heed to it. And the believers are actually something that should be reminded of the fact that as far as they are concerned, they will be also facing the same trials and tests which the nations of the previous prophets faced. اتبعوا ما أنزل إليكم من ربكم ولا تتبعوا من دونه أولياء قليلا ما تذكرون. People, follow whatever has been revealed to you from your Lord, and do not follow other patrons, leaving aside your Lord. Alas, seldom do you receive a reminder. So, of course, a very simple warning is sounded to these Quraysh, and they are being told that it has been revealed to you, and it is God who has been kind enough to them, because after the Prophet Ishmael, there wasn't a prophet who came for almost 2,500 years. And it is now that a prophet has come in their nation, and they should be very grateful to the Almighty, because this prophet has come as a manifestation of the prayer and the invocation of Abraham, who had requested that God please send a prophet and a messenger in his progeny who would be purifying people and instructing them in wisdom and in the Sharia. But alas, qalilan ma tazakkarun, seldom do you receive a reminder. Instead of being reminded through it, seldom it is that you receive a reminder. And I mean, this is something which is mentioned in the form of it's like a pitiful thing. And how come that they were waiting for a messenger of God, and now that he has arrived, they are not paying attention, and in fact not only not paying attention, but they are bent upon denying him, and they are bent upon following the religion of their forefathers that was steeped with polytheism, which is something that is absolutely uncalled for. وَكَمْ مِنْ قَرْيَةٍ أَهْلَكْنَاهَا فَجَاءَهَا بَأْسُنَا بَيَاتًا أَوْ هُمْ قَائِلُونَ. Alas, seldom do you receive a reminder. So that was the last verse. And then before this, how many cities have we destroyed? So our scourge descended on them suddenly at night, or visited them right in the day when they were resting. So qailun, when they were resting. So it's something that they should pay heed for. The Quraysh very well knew the stories of the past prophets, the Ad, the Samud, the people of Shu'aib, the people of Lot. So this was something that was very fresh in their minds. And they are reminded of their history and told that not very long ago in their own land, this is something that happened in their own whereabouts, and they know how these people were punished. The stories of these prophets have not only been preserved orally, but also in the Arabs. They were preserved in their compositions, in their poetic compositions, and in their sermons and orations as well. So, إِذْ جَاءَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا إِلَّا أَنْ فَمَا كَانَ دَعْوَاهُمْ إِذْ جَاءَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا إِلَّا أَنْ قَالُوا إِنَّا كُنَّا ظَالِمِينَ. Then when our scourge fell on them, they could say something. They could not say anything, but cried out, indeed, it was we who are unjust. It was we who are unjust. So again, this is something that we have to understand, that whenever the punishment lands on a people, they did, right at the end, they realized that yes, we were wrong. But then it would be too late to profess faith. And we know that precisely this is something that happened with the Pharaoh also. Right at the time of his drowning, he said that I profess faith in the Lord of Moses and Aaron. But of course, we know that the Quran said that this is not the time. Now that you have seen your fate, or you're staring at your fate, professing faith as this time is not going to be of any benefit to you. And it is the same thing which is mentioned here, that once this is over, once the truth has been communicated, then you yourself will admit that we have been wrongdoers and we were the ones who were to blame. فَلَنَسْأَلَنَّ الَّذِينَ أُرْسِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَنَسْأَلَنَّ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. So we shall definitely ask those to whom messengers were sent, and ask from the messengers themselves when they communicated our message. So if you can see this passage that mentioned earlier, the scourge that is meted out to people after they deny the truth conclusively, that is conveyed to them by a messenger of God. It is a sign of God's worldly retribution. And while educing from it, it is said that when that scourge arrived, the wrongdoers had no option but to confess their wrongdoings. So this is something that we would be knowing. We know from our own knowledge, and the Quran has actually delineated in a very comprehensive way, that people will profess their wrongdoings before they face punishment. Now, in this particular verse, فَلَنَسْأَلَنَّ الَّذِينَ أُرْسِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, the day of judgment is something which is being talked about. The day of judgment is bound to come. It will be a day in which people will be held accountable, and the messengers too shall be asked about the response that they got from people regarding the message they delivered to them. So that is what is being said. We shall definitely ask those to whom messengers were sent. So these nations will be asked, and ask from the messengers themselves as well about the answer they received when they communicated our message. So in other words, this is a accountability, a measure of accountability that will take place on the day of judgment. Not only the nations will be questioned, but the response that they gave to the messenger of God will also be brought into discussion, and the messengers will be asked that what response did your nation give to you? فَلَنَقُصَّنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ بِعِلْمٍ وَمَا كُنَّا غَائِبِينَ. Then with full knowledge we shall narrate the whole account before them, for we were never away from them. Again, this is something which is presented in a very, very stern voice, in a very stern term, that with full knowledge, the Almighty says, we shall narrate the whole account before them. They will be told that now on the day of judgment, you would not even need to speak, because we are going to narrate before you your own response. And your own response is something that you very well know, and you would not be able to deny it. We are fully aware of what you said in the past, and we are fully aware of now what we will be facing as a consequence. So, وَمَا كُنَّا غَائِبِينَ, that we were never not present before you. We were always there. We were looking after all the pros and cons, and as well as all the details that were at that time given before the Messenger of God and from him. So again, then as soon as the day of judgment, the arrival of the day of judgment is announced, as is the general case with the Quran, that now it is as if the Quran is transporting our imagination that that day has actually arrived. And what is going to happen of that day? وَالْوَزْنُ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْحَقُّ فَمَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And the measure shall be absolutely correct on that day. وَالْوَزْنُ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْحَقُّ. The measure shall be absolutely correct. In other words, evil will carry no weight on that day. At other instances in the Quran, it is pointed out on the day of judgment, only those deeds will carry weight which were for God and were done with the intention and desire to earn His pleasure in the hereafter. Deeds which were done with any other ulterior motive, like showing off or maybe wanting to become famous, they'll carry no weight. And that is precisely what is being said here, that the measure shall be absolutely correct on that day. فَمَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Then those whose scales are heavy shall only succeed. وَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَظْلِمُونَ. And those whose scales are light are the ones who put themselves in loss because they would deny our revelations and would be unjust to their souls. So, in other words, only the truth will be able to tilt a balance. If you have, that is something that is going to weigh, and that weight will be commensurate with the extent of that good deed. But evil deeds will not be able to tilt the balance. And the reason which has been said is something which is worthy of note. It says that فَأُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَظْلِمُونَ. That people whose scales will not bend, will not tilt, because their deeds carry no weight. Why? Because these were the people who would deny the revelations of God and who were unjust to their souls. Now, بِمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَظْلِمُونَ. Of course, this is a very common way of the Quran to tell us that they were the ones who associated partners with God. Zalamu anfusahum means that they were unjust to their own souls, because their own souls vouched for the fact that there is just one God, but they tried to hush down the voice of their conscience and of their own intuition, and they indulged in polytheism. And in this way, they committed the biggest sin against their own souls. And hence we know that shirk or polytheism has been called a great injustice, and we know from the Quran the words are zulmun azim. It's a great oppression, it's a great injustice. وَلَقَدْ مَكَّنَّاكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَجَعَلْنَا لَكُمْ فِيهَا مَعَائِشَ قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. People, we have granted you authority in this land and have opened up for you sources of livelihood, yet seldom are you grateful. Again, this land, of course, is the land of Haram, and the people who are addressed here are the Quraysh. Remember, this is a very specific way of the Quran, that it would say وَلَقَدْ مَكَّنَّاكُمْ, but from the context it will become evident that it's not talking about all the people of the world. It's not talking about people of the world who are living in certain times. In fact, it is talking about the Quraysh, because you see the pronoun is the addressive pronoun. وَلَقَدْ مَكَّنَّاكُمْ, O Quraysh, we gave you authority in the land. And of course, the Quraysh were given authority in the land of the Haram, the Hijaz. They had held power and authority, and we know that they possessed the Quraysh from all other tribes amongst the tribes of Arabia. They held sway in Arabia, and they were the ones who ruled Arabia, and they were the ones who were regarded as the custodians of the Baytullah, and hence they were given special respect. So, and the Quran says that not only did we do that, but because of the fact that you were the custodians of the Kaaba, the custodians of the holy shrine, resources of all sorts, their doors were open to you. And وَجَعَلْنَا لَكُمْ فِيهَا مَوَعِيشًا, and we opened up for you resources of livelihood. These are the opportunities which opened up for them as a result of the invocation of Abraham and Ishmael. And because of being the custodians of the house, we know that merchandise would come to them from all over Arabia, and trade was something that would be rampant, and things would be sold in their markets, and they would be able to export their own things through caravans to far and distant areas of Arabia. So an area which was totally barren, an area which lacked any resources, an area which was devoid of water, it suddenly bustled with activity. It hummed with human beings presented as if they were humming bees, and they became so popular amongst the rest of Arabia that they became the sought after. Their merchandise became very sought after. We know also that Prophet Muhammad was the one who took this merchandise from his wife Khadija, and he was responsible of trading this merchandise in other parts of Arabia as well. And this happened before he got married to her. So this is one example. Otherwise, there were several such examples in which, just because of the fact that they were custodians of the Baytullah, this merchandise and these goods, they could go very far and fetch lots of wealth as a result. But instead of thanking God and instead of being grateful, what was the result? The Quran says, "Qalilan ma tashkurun." Seldom were you grateful. Seldom are you grateful that instead of thanking God that you were living in a hostile piece of land, there was strife all over, stability was not there, caravans were looted, but because of being the custodians of Baytullah, you were given special protection. There was no food, but food resources were amplified in this area because of these trade caravans. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَاكُمْ ثُمَّ صَوَّرْنَاكُمْ ثُمَّ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ لَمْ يَكُنْ مِنَ السَّاجِدِينَ. Your tale is that we had created you, then had given you form. Then we had said to the angels, prostrate before Adam. So, except Satan, all prostrated. He was not among those who prostrated. قال ما منعك ألا تسجد إذ أمرتك قال أنا خير منه خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. God said, what stopped you from prostrating when I had ordered you? He replied, I am better than him. You have created me from fire and created him from clay. So now the surah is turning to the very origins of mankind, and once again mankind is being reminded that remember, you came into being from a single soul. Adam and Eve were the ones who were your parents. Summa falaqad khalaqnakum summa sawwarnakum. So this is the whole creation process that has been given more details, and none more than in Surah Sajda, the 32nd surah of the Quran. And if you look at those details and also look at how the Quran has described these details, we can see that in the first phase, the physical being of a human being was created in the womb of the earth. Then his progeny was given the ability to reproduce, and then his body was perfected. Now, two of the creatures that were born thus were selected as Adam and Eve. Spirit was blown into them, and as a result, they were given the ability to speak and analyze and had intellect and cognizance. So these are the phases that elapsed in the development of the species of human beings, and it is possible that each phase might have consisted of thousands of years. And that is why we do find that fossil record is the record of human evolution within human beings themselves. It's not something which Darwin has falsely understood with all sincerity, that he thought that it's basically a record of species converting to another species, whereas the view of the Quran, or the Quranic view of creation, is that yes, evolution did take place, but it did not take place between species, or interspecies evolution did not take place. It took place within each species. So humanoids were the original products, they were the original creation, and those humanoids became human. Initially, they were born directly from the womb of the earth, then they were given the ability to reproduce and procreate, and then of course, from them arose another generation, or maybe several generations, and God says that they were given perfection. And from among that perfected generation, we find that there are one pair, in fact, and a male and a female pair that was selected, and they were Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve did have their own parents, but of course those parents were humanoids, we can say, and the first perfect pair was Adam and Eve. So this is the Quranic view of creation, although it has been just referred to here, but for more details you can look up Surah Shehzad, the 32nd Surah of the Quran, and initially you will find a very detailed account in that surah. And as the creation story goes on, we know that Adam and Satan, these are the two characters. The prostration was meant to show respect and was done at the behest of God. So the Almighty, in order to test all the other creations who were superior to Adam as well, including the jinn and of course angels, they were asked to prostrate. And this prostration was not an act of worship, it was an act of respect and was done at the order of the Almighty Himself. So it does not have any element of polytheism. And the test of obedience by the angels given by God had certain reasons behind it. Firstly, He wanted to make it evident to the progeny of Adam that real success does not hinge upon being created from light or fire. So God wanted this message put across that real success does not spring from being created from a particular substance. It actually lies in being obedient to God. So they should always submit to the truth, disregarding egoism. The second message that God perhaps wanted to put across was that they should understand that when God has given them the status that angels have prostrated before them, then it is not worthy of them in any situation to worship the highest of God's creations by regarding them to be His associates. So in other words, it would be absolutely foul play on their part, like they did, of course, that they would regard the angels to be the daughters of God. So if this would be absolutely baseless. Servitude and worship are the rights of God alone. And if they associate anyone in these rights of God, they not only show disrespect to God, but to their own selves. And we know from this verse also that Satan was specifically, not just Satan, in fact, it was all the jinn who were also asked to prostrate. And we know all of them prostrated except Satan, who is called Iblis in the Quran. And it is evident that being a jinn is something of a closer aspect of superiority towards the angels. And they were made from fire, and we know the angels are made from light. And that is how this story goes on. And then God had said that what stopped you? And as the words are, "Ma manaka alla tasjuda," what stopped you from prostrating? And again, the answer was that I am better than them. You have created me from fire, and you have created them from mud or clay. So how can I prostrate before someone who is less in status than me? Now, it is evident that regarding one's status to be based on lineage and race is a philosophy invented by Satan. So people who are proud of their race, they are actually following Satan, because Satan thought that I am made of a superior race because I am made of fire. So therefore today those who show arrogance because of this complex in their lineage, they regard others to be inferior, are basically followers of Satan. And then once this had happened, قال فاهبط منها فما يكون لك أن تتكبر فيها فاخرج إنك من الصاغرين. He said, get down from here, because you do not have the right to show arrogance here. So away with you, surely you are disgraceful. Now, of course, this is something that we know from other instances of the Quran also. We have studied this earlier in Surah Baqarah also, that arrogance has no place and rebelliousness has also no place in the presence of God. And if Satan committed this crime, then his punishment is eternal humiliation. He was to leave God's presence and live in this humiliation. He had no place in God's assemblies. And that is why the words are فَهْبِطْ مِنْهَا فَمَا يَكُونُ لَكَ أَن تَتَكَبَّرَ فِيهَا. Get down from here, because you do not have any right to show arrogance here. فَخْرُجْ إِنَّكَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. Away with you, surely you are disgraceful. And then look what Satan replied. He said, قَالَ أَنْزِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. So he said, give me respite until the day people are raised up. And God said, إِنَّكَ مِنَ الْمُنْزَرِينَ. You have this respite. So this respite was something that Satan actually demanded from the Almighty, and the Almighty said, okay, I'm going to give you this respite. And the respite that Satan can prove to God that human beings are not worthy of the status granted to them by God. This was the challenge that he threw, that okay, I'm going to lead them astray, and now that you have created someone about whom you think that they are going to prove you worthy, that's not going to be the case. I'm going to lead them away from you, and I'm going to prove that this is something that you did as a mistake. And when God says that you have this respite, innaka minal munzareen, this means that the Almighty has granted Satan and his progeny the respite to do whatever they can to entice and lure human beings. So as a result, the verdict about the status of human beings was deferred to the day of judgment. It is now on the day of judgment that it will be known that who won and who lost the challenge, who lost before the challenge of Satan. And it is now our duty to face that challenge in its eye and therefore not succumb to this challenge. قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. He replied, then, because you have led me astray, I too shall surely lie in ambush at your straight path for the progeny of Adam. So this is something that is worthy of note, dear viewers. Look at the audacity of Satan. He says, فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي, God, because you have led me astray. So this is like a counterattack which Satan had launched. And he said that I have not gone astray, you have led me astray. You have hijacked me. So it was because God gave him a directive which was not possible for him to obey. So it was in response to this, he said that, well, the directive was so that you wanted me to show rebelliousness. So it is like Satan justifying his audacity. It is God who was responsible for this because Satan was compelled to disobey him. So it is evident from the verses that we'll be studying in the next few verses that God did not comment on this statement. So he just let it go. It is as if Satan was given this opportunity to say whatever he wanted to say, and the reason that it was not commented upon was because it was so blatantly foolish a statement that it needed no response from God. How could God have hijacked Satan? How could have he given him a directive that was not possible for him to obey? And then look at how Satan further goes on and states his challenge in an even more daring fashion. He says, Summa la'atiyannahum min bayni aydihim wa min khalfihim wa an aymanihim wa an shama'ilihim wa la tajidu aksarahum shakireen. Then I shall certainly pounce upon them from their front and behind, from their right and left, from all sides, and you will find most of them to be ungrateful to you. So the straight path of God, this is the path that is the most dearest to God and the most dearest to human beings as well. It is the path of monotheism. And Satan has challenged the Almighty that he will abort his scheme of choosing the righteous, the scheme which was the objective of God in creating mankind. And Satan says that he will lie in ambush from their right and from their left, everywhere, from all sides, from behind them, from above them, and he will make sure that they succumb to his scheme, and at the same time they are not able to get up when they fall, and they fall and follow the ways of Satan all the time. It's a very daring scheme. It's a scheme that only someone who has become mad with arrogance and rebelliousness will dare present. And when it is said you will find most of them to be ungrateful to you, so the exact meaning of this would be that you will not be able to make the majority of them adhere to monotheism. So that is what Satan meant, that they'll be ungrateful to you because they'll leave the path of monotheism. And the reason for this is that when they will not remain thankful to God for his favors and blessings, they will show gratitude to others and start worshipping them after making them into deities. قال اخرج منها مزؤوما مدحورا لمن تبعك منهم لأملأن جهنم منكم أجمعين. God said, go away from here, disgraced and accursed. Remember that those of them who follow you, I also shall definitely fill hell with all of you. Again, this is an answer by God in the same vein, that those of them who follow you, I shall definitely fill hell with you all. Now, this statement by the Almighty is an answer to the challenge of Satan, is given with the aloofness and grandeur of greatness. it expresses his categorical decision, which will be implemented without any concession. If people follow the ways of Satan, they'll be punished like him. They will become his progeny. They will be regarded as his associates. But we know from other instances in the Quran, and there are several other places in which the Almighty says, Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultan, but my close people, my righteous people, you'll not be able to make them go away from me. They'll not go astray. They'll come even closer to me. And this trial will make them even shine brighter, because the tougher the trial, the more they'll shine, and the more they'll come out as if they have gone closer to God and they have become his dear servants. So we come to an end to today's discussion, the first 18 verses of this surah. And if you have any questions regarding this passage, you are most welcome to ask questions.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem, and assalamu alaikum, everyone. Dr. Saleem, what a wonderful surah. This is Surah Araf. I have a chat question that I need to look at right now before I read it out to you. Okay, so the question is, had Iblis not refused to bow before Adam, then what would have been the situation?
Well, the situation would have been that we would have been still sent in this world, because that is what was the original plan. And now we would have to face just one challenge, and that would be our own soul. Remember, the source of evil today are two. One is Satan and his progenies, whispers. They suggest evil suggestions to us. And the second is our own nafs, our own soul. So the Quran tells us that our own nafs also lures us, also tries to lead us astray. So now if that would be the case, that Satan would have prostrated, then of course we would have one less enemy. And now the challenge that would be left to us today would be that we would face our nafs and try to vanquish it.
So, Dr. Saleem, just on the same question, if I may ask, how does one know the difference between if Iblis is making them go astray or if it's their own ego? Is there some kind of a difference?
We cannot make any difference. I mean, all that we can know, we do know is that these are the two sources. But which is which at what time, that is something that we can never have any awareness about, because we don't know the process of how these things come in our heart. The Quran tells us about jinn kind, allazi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas, that they whisper evil suggestions in the hearts of people. So how exactly does that happen? The mechanism is not known to us, but we know the result, that it does happen. Similarly, how our own nafs whispers evil suggestions to us, that again is something we don't know. But we know from the Quran, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, that God gave us the awareness of good and evil. And if we are able to surmount that evil, then God says that that is something that will lead you to success. So we do know their existence, but we don't know the mechanism.
So that these whisperings, what's called waswase, is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So the word waswasa, of course, it means evil suggestions. And so normally in the English language, when we use the word suggestion, we know that the person who is suggesting and the person who is suggested to. But for a lack of a better word for a translation, the word suggestion actually means that something which is more of a prompt. It's like the promptings of Satan. So perhaps a better translation would be the prompts, which mean that he tries to just give that spark in you. He tries to provoke you. And how exactly does that happen? How does the provocations of Satan enter our hearts? Again, that is a mechanism that we are not aware of, but we do know that it does happen.
सर लगता है ऐसे है कि जैसे अल्लाह की ये स्कीम थी कि अल्लाह सब कुछ जानता था, हमें टेस्ट करने के लिए शैतान बनाया गया कि ताकि हमें टेस्ट किया जा सके. मुझे तो यूं लगता है क्योंकि अल्लाह तो पहले ही जानता था कि भाई कि उसने यही करना है और यूं ही होना है. तो ये क्या पार्ट ऑफ स्कीम नहीं अल्लाह ताला की?
Of course, you see, this was a test and a trial, and that is something which is divulged and disclosed to us at the very beginning, that it is a trial from God. He wants to check us, He wants to test us. And more than that, He is basically selecting people for His paradise who are pure and who would not succumb to Satan's lures and to the lures of their own nafs. So this was the scheme of God, and about that scheme of God, He informed us well before our creation, and that is something that we know. And of course, at the same time, the books of God and the prophets of God have continued to remind us that this is your main challenge, that you will be provoked. you will be tried to be lured away. There will be lots of things that would divert you. Your own ego would be the biggest enemy that you would be facing. The lust in you is also something that is going to provoke you. So lust and ego are the two very prominent enemies that we do face today, and they are, of course, the biggest trials that we have. And that is why the Almighty actually, when He put Adam and Eve in that orchard, and He said that you would not go near that tree, which is, of course, the tree of procreation, it was precisely for this reason that it could be communicated to them that through lust and sex they would be tried and tested the most. And from day one, they must remain aware of this giant enemy that they will face.
The Quran is a test for us, but Allah says He will throw Shaitan into the hellfire as well as his followers. His
All
followers,
those who
yes,
follow.
because we are being tested.
Yes.
So why would he be thrown? Because Allah created him that way, no?
No, that is not that God created him as a person who would be who was consigned to hell. It was out of his own free will that he disobeyed God. Remember, he was an angel. He belonged to the category of jinn. The angels and the jinn both were asked to prostrate before Adam, and all obeyed except him, illa Iblis. So it was because of this disobedience that he would face the music. Otherwise, had he been obedient, the result would have been different.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Naushad Shafqat Saab, please ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab. Dr. Saab, the huruf-e-muqatat with which this surah starts, they are supposed to be the names of these surahs, 29 of them, and the rest have been named by the Sahaba. Now, there are so many repetitions, like there are more than one surah, Alif Lam Mim, Alif Lam Ra. And why the same name being repeated for the surahs? How would one distinguish had they not been given names by this Sahaba?
So you see, the similarity in names actually, according to Ustaz Meezan Farahi, refers to the similarity of the content of that surah. And this actually holds up, because if you look at the first, the second and the third surah, both have the same name, Alif Lam Mim. So Surah Baqarah is called Alif Lam Mim, and Surah Al Imran is also called Alif Lam Mim. And if you look at both these surahs, you've been through them recently, you'll see that there is a very marked similarity between the two. The first and the foremost similarity is that the first surah conveys conclusively the truth to the Jews. And in the case of Surah Al Imran, the same thing is done for the Christians. So these are the two denominations which were called the people of the book. So Surah Baqarah specifically addresses Jews for the same reason as Al Imran addresses the Christians. And this, in the same way, you'll see that in the middle of both surahs there is a verse, one verse in Surah Baqarah, another in Surah Al Imran, which announces that this group is now deposed from their position and a new ummah is being instituted, and then certain directives are given to the new ummah. So the similarity is so stark between these two surahs that if you reflect more, you'll see that all those surahs who have a similar name, they also have a similar subject. Also, as is the case with this surah, it says Alif Lam Mim Swad. So remember, the Alif Lam Mim is common with Baqarah and Al Imran, but there is an additional word Swad. Now, it remains to be seen that what exactly the word Swad represents, because we don't have knowledge of all the letters of the Arabic alphabet as to what they represent. I mean, there are certain obscurities, and researchers are still trying to find out, because it's an obscure thing. It's something that has, it's no longer fully found in history. So it's a fascinating journey. It's something which people are still trying to do, but as yet, to the best of my knowledge, they have not come up with the explanation as to what the word Swad stands for. So if that becomes apparent someday, then we would have a more cogent explanation as to why the surah was named as Alif Lam Mim Swad.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Shabana, अपना सवाल कर लीजिए.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम. डॉक्टर साहब, इसमें जैसे आपने बताया कि इब्लीस ने सजदा नहीं किया था, तो वो सिर्फ जिनों में से सिर्फ इब्लीस या उसके साथ भी जो लोग थे उन्होंने सजदा नहीं किया? क्योंकि जैसे सूरह जिन में हम पढ़ते हैं ना, तो उसमें जिन कहते हैं कि हमने जो है वो आसमान को, अब जब हम बैठने के लिए कुछ सुनगुन लेने के लिए जाते हैं तो वहां पर आसमान जो है वो बिल्कुल उसमें पहरेदारी है और हमें नहीं पता कि अच्छा किया जा रहा है या बुरा किया जा रहा है। तो वो वाले जिन तो सही वाले थे, ठीक थे, जो कह रहे थे हमें तो पता ही नहीं था कि इंसान और जिन जो है वो खुदा का कोई शरीक ठहरा सकते हैं। तो क्या उनके ऊपर पाबंदी लग गई थी जिनों पर सिरे से ही?
You have to understand that this incident is something that took place at the beginning of mankind. It was at the creation of mankind. The topic of Surah Jinn relates to the revelation of the Quran in the times of Prophet Muhammad and how the jinn of those times behaved regarding the revelation of Wahi. And there was no question of, prostrating before Adam or any such thing. So that's an entirely different, I would say, topic. And that actually, the topic of Surah Jinn is that whatever was revealed by God to Prophet Muhammad, the jinn tried their best to eavesdrop, to try to obtain some information, but the Almighty says that they were not able to do so. And during the conversation, it also comes to light that they were min al-qasitun, that there were certain people who were good among them and there were certain jinn who were not good among them. So, it's like saying that they are good human beings and they are bad human beings. So that's a topic that is absolutely different. In the case of this episode of creation, it is clearly said that every single jinn and angel prostrated. Ajma'een are the words, except illa iblis, except Satan, except Iblis. And kana min al-jinn, and that has also been specified that he was amongst the jinn. He was not an angel, he was amongst the jinn.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Shafqat Saab, you may ask your question.
Yes, Dr. Saab, it also is said that only those deeds which are done to please God and follow His principles will have weight on the day of judgment. Now, do I need to be conscious of that at every deed that I perform, that I'm doing this for the will of God, or is my general perception that I'm doing it for the will of God enough?
That is enough, because you see, at all times you are not fully conscious, you don't take conscious decisions. There are some areas in which your muscle memory, your general, I would say, habit, it takes precedent. And you do things rather in a mechanical way, but that does not mean you don't have the intention. So that intention is still there. It's just latent. It might be sleeping. It might be below the threshold level. All these things can be said about it, but it's always there. So it's not that you need to muster up your conscious level at each time that you do a deed. Yes, if you are able to do it, that's a very good thing, because that will make you even more conscious. But if that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that the thing is not there. It's there, but it's just at the subliminal level.
Shafqat
Saab, I see your raised hand. Do you have another question?
Yes, I have another question.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Dr. We are reading about Adam, Adam, the jinns being asked to prostrate before Adam, and Iblis refusing. And immediately after his refusal, he asks God to give him time to mislead mankind. Now, why would God grant a wish of someone who has just disobeyed him so blatantly?
Well, this is a question that you need to pose God. God is gracious. God is someone who takes the challenge whenever it is thrown before him, and I think more so because this challenge would have really made his scheme shine even more brightly, because now he would be able to say that in spite of such trials and such tough trials, there was still a part of mankind who showed their own resilience, their own perseverance, and they succeeded in the trial. So I think it was because God himself wanted to make people realize that there is going to be a sieve through which people will pass, and this sieve is that trial which Satan would be presenting before them. And so not only would be that trial that the Almighty would at times make them confront to, but at the same time there would be another trial which would be even more difficult, when Satan will try to lure them away and so it's a heavy challenge that they would be facing. And so maybe God thought that, well, people who would come out in shining colors or in bright colors once they pass through this test will be even more testament to the fact that his scheme was in fact a successful scheme in which people, they faced a lot of heavy odds and they still succeeded.
So am I right in feeling?
I mean, remember, this is a question that you have to pose God. This is my humble, I would say, estimation of perhaps this was maybe something that he had before him when he accepted Satan, that, okay.
That should give us extra hope that God is so merciful and so magnanimous that no matter what you've done, the doors of Tawbah are still open
And
to
mercy
all
are
of
still
us.
open all the time. Correct.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
So, Dr. Saleem, I have a chat question. I'm not sure if it's related to the passage. It may be at some level. What if Adam had not eaten the forbidden fruit of Jannah? Would that be a general question?
Okay, I can answer it because this is something which has been discussed here in a subtle way. You see, the thing is that when we talk about such hypothetical questions, the answers also become hypothetical. What if that had happened? What if that had not happened? I mean, there could have been a number of other possibilities. Maybe God would have created some other trial. So I think instead of asking that, what if that had not been done, because we cannot change the past, it has been done. So it is better to understand why that was done. Otherwise, I can say that, well, had it not been done, maybe some other thing would have been done. And what would that thing be? I don't know. So you see, when you talk in terms of conjecture, you will never get to any certain answer. The best thing would be that you take a certain thing for granted, and the past is you have to take it for granted. You cannot change the past, what has happened and what the Quran has informed us. So the best way for a student is to analyze things that he can or she can. I mean, when something does not happen and you ask me that, what if this had not happened, I would not be in a position to give you a 100% answer, because, as I said, God might have created something else.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Amar Rasool, please ask your question.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahab.
Well,
Dr. Sahab, I wanted to ask this question. I don't remember the verse numbers, but in this passage that we discussed today, there is a verse which says that in the hereafter, all of them will come to me and they will say that we have been among the wrongdoers. And then we will question all of those who have been given the message, and we will also question the messengers. So I wanted to ask you if you could just elaborate that a little bit. Like, what does that mean? What will the messengers be asked about?
The messengers will be questioned about the response they got from their nation.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I do not have any raised hands right now. Just a general question that I'll ask in the end. You can continue with the idiomatic translation.
Okay. So starting off with the surah. So Alif Lam Mim Sad, as we know that this is the name of the surah, and that is why the translation is that this is Alif Lam Mim Sad, which means this is the surah that we are about to study. Kitabun unzila. Kitabun, a book. Unzila, revealed. Ilaika, towards you, O Prophet. Fa, therefore, la, not. Yakun, should be. Fi, in. Sadrika, your heart. Haraj, any worry. So it is a book. Kitabun unzila ilaika. It is a book revealed to you. Therefore, there should not be any haraj. There should not be any worry. Fi sadrika, in your heart. In your heart. Minho, because of it. Min, because. Ho, it, because of the book. So the book should not be any cause of anxiety for you. That is the idiomatic sense. Le, so that. Tunzira, you can warn. Bihi, through it. So that you can warn people through it. So the reason is that because it has been revealed so that you can warn people. So you can say that after minhu there is a full stop, and then it is said litunzira bihi, that this book has been revealed so that you can warn through it. Tunzira means you can warn. Le is because. Bihi is through it. Wa, and. Zikra, reminder. Lil mu'mineen, for the believers. So it has been revealed so that you can warn through it, and it is a reminder for the believers. Ittabi'u, Ittabi'u means follow. Ma, that. Unzila, revealed. Ilaykum, towards you. Mir Rabbikum, from your Lord. So follow what has been revealed towards you from your Lord. Rabbikum, your Lord. Wa, and. La, not. Tattabi'u, follow. Min dunihi, those except him. Awliya, who are your guardians. In other words, don't follow other guardians except God. Qalilan, seldom. Ma tazakkarun, do you receive a reminder. Seldom do you receive a reminder. Wa, and. Come, how many? Min qaryatin, amongst the cities. Ahlaknaha, we destroyed. Fa, therefore. Ja'aha, it came to them. Faja'aha ba'suna, so our punishment came to them. Ba'suna means our punishment. Ja'aha, came to them. So came to them our punishment. Bayatan, at night. Aw, or. Hum, they. Qa'ilun, was sleeping in the day. So qalun is the same, the word is from qailula, and the qailun word actually refers to the fact that they would be sleeping in the day. So they might be resting in the day, or they might be sleeping at night. Faja'aha ba'suna bayatan aw hum qa'ilun. Fa, therefore. Ma, not. Fa, ma kana da'wahum. So not was their da'wah, not was their answer. Fama kana da'wahum, is when ja'ahum, came to them, ba'suna, our scourge or our punishment, illa, except, an, that, qalu, they said, inna, indeed we, kunna, were, zalimeen, oppressors. So this is the thing that we were discussing, that they will confess that fama kana da'wahum, that their only statement would be when our is ja'ahum ba'suna, when came to them our ba's, when came to them our punishment. What was that? Except that they would say, inna kunna zalimeen, indeed we were amongst the oppressors. This would be their answer, and it would in fact be their admission also. Fa, therefore. Lanas'alanna, we will definitely ask. Allazina, those who. Ursila ilayhim, were sent towards them. Wa, and. Lanas'alanna, we will definitely ask. Mursaleen, those who were sent. So in other words, we will definitely ask those to whom these messengers were sent, and we will ask the messengers also. Allazina ursila ilayhim would mean those to whom messengers were sent, those to whom they were sent, in other words, referring to the nations of the messengers. And lanas'alanna, we will also question. You can see the similarity with the Urdu word sa'il. Sa'ala is the same as question. So las'alanna would be that we would question the mursaleen, those who were sent, referring to the messengers. Fa, therefore. Lanaqussanna alayhim bi'ilmin. Lanaqussanna, we will narrate alayhim, to them, bi'ilmin, with knowledge. So we will narrate to them with knowledge. In other words, what is being said here is that we will narrate to them with full knowledge as to what had happened. Wama, va, and. Ma, not. Kunna, we. Ghaibeen, away. And we were not away. In other words, we were not aloof. We did not leave you unattended. We were not ghaib. We were always present. Wa, and. Al-wazn, weight. Yawma is in that day. Al-haq, the truth. So the truth only will carry weight on that day. The truth, which is haq, wazn is weight, yawma is in that day. So only the truth will carry wazn, only the truth will carry weight, yawma is in, on that day. Fa, therefore, man, he, saqulat, man saqulat mawazinuhu. So in other words, then those whose mawazin will be heavy. In other words, those whose scale. So mawazin basically are the scales of a scale, the scales. Faman saqulat mean those whose scales are heavy. Faman saqulat means heavy. Mawazinuhu means scales, and man is who. Fa, therefore who heavy is whose scales. That would be the literal meaning. So those whose scales are heavy. Fa ulaika, therefore indeed, whom they, al-muflihun, will succeed. So falah is something that is also known in the Urdu language as success. So it is from the same word as muflihun. So muflihun would mean it is they who succeed. Wa and man he khaffat. Khaffat means did not bend or became light. Mawazinuhu their scales. So as for whose scales became light. Fa'ulaika it is they allazina who khasiru anfusahum who suffered loss to themselves, who incurred loss on their own selves. Khasiru is the same as khusran, also used in the Urdu language. So khasiru anfusahum, they are the ones who put themselves into loss. Bima kanu, bima because ma kanu they were bi ayatina about our revelations yazlimun unjust. So because they were denier bima kanu yazlimun, so فَأُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ it is they who put themselves in loss بِمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَظْلِمُونَ because they would deny our revelations and would be unjust to their souls. خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ and بِمَا كَانُوا يَظْلِمُونَ. So that is something that has to be understood in tandem. Wa and laqad indeed makkannakum we gave you authority fi in al-ard the land, and we gave you authority in the land. Wa and ja'alna we made lakum for you fiha in it ma'aish. So this is the plural of ma'isha or a word that is close to it, which means we gave you in it a means of livelihood or the sources of livelihood. The word ma'ash is something that we know connotes livelihood in the Urdu language also. Qalilan, very seldom. Ma tashkurun, you show gratitude. Very seldom do you show gratitude. Wa and laqad indeed khalaqnakum we created you. Summa then savvarnakum then we gave you form. Summa then qulna we said lil malaika to the angels. What did we say? Usjudu prostrate li Adama before Adam. Usjudu li Adama prostrate before Adam. Fa therefore sajadu prostrated illa except Iblis Satan. So all prostrated except Satan, or they prostrated except Satan. Lam not yakun was minal amongst sajideen those who prostrated. He was not amongst those who had prostrated. Qala, so this is God saying. God said, Ma, what? Mana'aka, stopped you. Allah, so that you don't. Tasjuda, prostrate, is when amartuka, I ordered you. So, what is it that made you stop from prostration? When I ordered you, is when amartuka, I ordered you. God is saying this to Satan. Qala, he replied, Ana, I, khair, better, minhu, than him. So Satan said, I am better than him. Ana khairum minhu. I am better than him. Khalaqtani, you created me. Min nar, from fire. Min, from. Nar, fire. Khalaqtani, you created me from fire. Wa, and. Khalaqtahu, you created him. Min, from. Teen means clay. So you created me from fire. You created him, meaning Adam, from clay. Qala, God said, Fahbit, get down. Minha, from it. Fama yakunu laka, you do not have any prerogative. Ma yakunu laka, fama, not yakunu, is laka for you. So you do not have any right. An, that. Tatakabbara fiha. Tatakabbara, you show arrogance. Fiha, in it. Which means in this orchard that you are being placed, you don't have any right to show arrogance in it. Fakhruj, get out. Get out. Innaka, indeed you, minas saghirin, are among the humiliated. So indeed you are among the humiliated. This is again something that you can note, that the word saghir, although it's used both in the Urdu and the Arabic language, but they have a world of difference. In Urdu, saghir means someone who is small. But in Arabic, saghir means someone who's disgraced or who has been humiliated. And hence it is important to note that although There are words which are common between Arabic and Urdu, but not always do they have the same meaning, as is the case here. Qala, he said. Who said? Satan said. Anzirni, give me respite. Ila, until. Yawm, the day. Yub'asoon, people are raised up. So he said, give me respite until the day people are raised up, referring to the day of judgment. Qala, God said, Innaka, indeed you, minal munzareen, amongst those who are given respite. Indeed you are amongst those who are given respite. Qala, Satan said, Fa, therefore, bima, because aghwaytani, you led me astray. So Satan is saying, O God, because you led me astray, la aq'udanna lahum, I shall sit for whom, I shall sit in ambush for them, sirataka al-mustaqim, at your straight path. Sirataka, your path, al-mustaqim, straight. So because you led me astray, I shall lie in ambush. I shall lie in ambush at your straight path. Summa, then, la'atiyannahum, I shall pounce upon them, min bayni aydihim, from their front, wa min khalfihim, and from their behind or from their back, wa, and an aymanihim, and from their right, wa, and an shama'ilihim, and from their left. So I'll pounce upon them from their front and from their back and from their right and from their left. Wa, and la, not. Tajidu, you will find aksarahum, most of them, shakireen, grateful. And you will not find most of them to be grateful. In other words, most would be ungrateful. Qala, God said, ukhruj, get out, minha, from it. Maz'umam madhura, disgraced and accursed. Maz'uman means that you have been condemned, and madhura, you are accursed. Laman tabi'aka minhum, la, therefore, man, he, tabi'aka, follows you, minhum, among them. So he who follows you amongst them, amongst these human beings, those who follow you, la'amla'anna, I will fill, jahannama, hell, minkum, with all of you, ajma'een, indeed all of you. So minkum, you, and ajma'een, all of you. So laman tabi'aka would mean that those who follow you, minhum, from among them, la'amla'anna, I shall definitely fill Jahannam, hell, with you all, ajma'in, all. So this is how the conversation and the dialogue that you can see took place or will take place between between God and Satan. And although it's going to take place in the hereafter, but we are given a picture of this hereafter as if it is taking place right in front of our eyes. And this is the beauty of the Quran, that it is in the form of dialogues, and the dialogues, the way you feel as if they are being conducted, is as if the whole scene is portrayed before your eyes, as if the entities are right before you and they're speaking to you in real life. And that is how the Quran captures our attention, and that is how we have been discussing this earlier on, that Quran has a very unique style. It is a book of dialogues. It is a book in which there is a real life conversation between various characters, and that is embedded in narration. Narration itself is from God, and the conversation also is in the words of God, but this conversation is between real life characters. So now if you have any questions regarding the passage, or other than that, any other question, you may have the time to do so.
So Dr. Saleem, I do not see any raised hands regarding the passage. If anybody has any questions, please go ahead and ask them. Otherwise, I will be asking the general questions that have been written in the chat. So Dr. Saleem, the first question, okay. Naushad Shafqat Sahab, is it related to the passage?
Yes, yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
Dr. Sahab, you said that this relates to what will take place in the hereafter. Actually,
Correct.
This is what has already taken place at the time of creation, no?
Right. So, I mean, I was referring to some of the other dialogues that we have discussed, that these messengers would be called to God, and they'll be asked that what is the response that they get on the day of judgment. So you see, this is a whole series of dialogues. One part of that dialogue, of course, is something that already took place, as is this case. But another part is the one that's going to take place, where, as we can see, it says that the messengers will be questioned. that what was the response they got from their nation. So of course this is a reply that God will be given on the day of judgment.
Right, sir. Thank you. It's like Kila Dukhulil Jannah will be taking place after the day,
Yes,
at the day
of
of
course,
judgment.
of the days.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bhatti Saab, please ask your question.
Sir, in ayah 14, when Satan says that, give me a respite until the day of resurrection. So Allah had explained to them his scheme also, that I'm gonna create this world, and then there's gonna be a day of judgment, and then everybody will have to answer questions.
Uh-huh.
So Allah made the whole scheme, and He made them aware of this, and then He denied, knowing all that.
Of course, I mean, he did this intentionally, knowing all this. It's not that he was programmed to deny. It was something not something by default. It was something that he had full knowledge of, and he was given the option.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Riaz Khan Saab, please ask your question.
Assalamualaikum, Doc. In Surah, we come across the same scenario. The jinn and shaitan, some of them are interchangeable, as well as, according to one of the hadiths, Prophet ﷺ made shaitan a Muslim. And so the jinns are shaitan, and some of them are not. How do we sort of...
I mean, I think you should concentrate more on the text of the Quran, and there are hadiths which are quite confusing in this matter. The Quran states that just as human beings are a species, the jinn also are a species. So just as we have good human beings and bad human beings, and similarly we have good jinn and bad jinn. So that's one category. Then people amongst the jinn, one person in particular was called Iblis. He refused to acquiesce to the will of God, and he was called Satan. And now everyone who follows Satan, from among the jinn or from among humankind, are called his associates and his accomplices. So they also become like his progeny or like his accomplices. So they are found both in mankind and in jinn kind. And Satan or Iblis was their leader. So human beings and jinn, of course, are the species about what we are talking about. And Satan or Iblis is someone who belonged to the jinn, but later on he had associates and accomplices both from the jinn kind and from mankind, because the Quran says minal jinnati wan nas.
So do we understand that just like Nuh alayhi salam, we are all we were all reborn during the floods of Nuh alayhi salam? So the shaitan is also a continuation, or his progeny is continuing after Iblis, and so on and so on.
See, remember, this destruction relates to human beings. The jinn were always alive, they were going to stay alive. So their jinn, of course, the evil amongst them, they always existed. And similarly, remember, after the flood of Noah, it's not that all humankind was destroyed. This is a misconception. Only that part of humankind was destroyed who were the adversaries of Prophet Noah. And because the population was not that large, so a better part of mankind was destroyed because Noah addressed them, and he lived for about 1,000 years also. So this doesn't mean that all mankind was destroyed. There were still parts of mankind that were not destroyed because Noah was not sent to them. So only that part of mankind was destroyed. So other human beings, they existed and they continue to exist, and all those who continued to follow Satan became his accomplices, both among jinn kind and mankind. But Satan himself was a jinn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Shabana, please ask your question.
डॉक्टर साहब, दुनिया में इंसान जो है वो अपना इम्तिहान का पर्चा खुद चूज करके आया है कि अल्लाह ताला की मर्जी से मिलता है? आपकी इसमें क्या राय है?
You see, the exam or the test through which a person is put through is not something that I can have any say or authority. because it is God who is creating that trial and test. So I am the subject of that trial and test. I am put through that trial and test by God. Sometimes He tries me by giving me wealth and riches. At times He tries me by depriving me of wealth and riches. At times He tries me through illness, through the loss of property, through the loss of a dear one. So see, these are happenings which God creates in this world. So I am the subject of that trial and test. So I cannot have any say or authority in that trial and test, unless, of course, there are specific forms of trials and tests that may result because of my own wrong attitude. For example, if I don't take the proper precautions, then my illness will be something that is brought about by my own self. For example, if I don't take proper precautions in the cold weather, I go out, and if I catch cold, I cannot blame God for that. That is a trial that God has brought upon me. It is a trial which I have brought upon myself. So there are certain things that I can become a cause as well. But by and large, for example, if someone dies, for example, if you have a terminal illness, or for example, if you are living in a war zone. So you see, these are things that you cannot help. You're just there. So it is here that you can attribute the trial to God. But then there are other trials for which I am responsible myself. So we need to make a distinction.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I have a
खैर
chat
और
question.
शर
Oh,
खुदा
sorry,
ने
go
तो
ahead.
भी कहा है ना कि वो खैर और शर दोनों से ही आजमाएगा, तो दोनों ही चीजें आजमाइश है.
Right. I mean, both are means of our test. So these are the means through which we are being tested.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I have a chat question that I want to ask. We can't ask angels for anything as it is called shirk. Why do we ask humans in everyday life to help us or small things? For example, a child asking his mother to give him food or his father to give him money, etc. Isn't it shirk? In the same way, why can't we ask an angel for something as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed angels to perform different tasks of the universe?
This is because when we ask angels, we think that they are able to provide us the way God is able to provide us. So that's never the case with our parents or our friends. We know when we are asking for help from friends, they are helping us, not because they are defying God or because they think they have the power to give us whatever they have. It is only because they are in a position to help us and we know who they are. In the case of the angels, none of this is the case. When we ask for a favor from angels, what exactly is in our mind? If you look at people who regarding to be daughters of God, because this is how the Arabs would do, they think that they have proximity with God, they have closeness with God, and if we please these daughters of God, then they'll be able to win us God's affection. So that path and that process is entirely different. So we are not asking angels for a biscuit or a ride in a car. That's a different thing. What we are actually trying to engage angels in is to accomplish certain desires which only God can have accomplished. And we are asking these angels that, well, we are going to worship you or we are going to prostrate before you because we think that you are close to God and you will have our wish fulfilled from God. So these are two marked different things.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I have another chat question. How and in what way the Wahi becomes a source of anxiety for its recipients, that is a Nabi or a Rasul, as it is mentioned in the initial verses?
So you see, the Wahi does not become a source. The content of the Wahi becomes. And you see, when you asked, then you do go and warn your people, go and get up and go to those people who are so rebellious to you. So the responsibility is of such nature that any ordinary human being, when he is given this responsibility, that he has been appointed by God and God is going to depute him to a nation and he should go there, knock on their doors and let them know what the truth is. So it is this responsibility, and more than that, they become anxious because at times they think that if their nation is not listening to them, then perhaps it is because they are falling short in their duty. Perhaps they are not fulfilling their duty. So in most cases, because they are very sensitive, the prophets of God would think that if their nations are not heeding their calls, then it is because maybe they are falling short. Maybe they are doing something which is not correct, and this makes them anxious.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I have a question. So Hazrat Nuh's age, that's been told to us in the Quran, Dr. Saleem, that he was 1,000 years old?
950.
In the Quran?
Yes. Explicitly, express words.
Okay. So in those times, people lived that long, Dr. Saleem?
Oh, yes, we know. If you look at the Bible, I mean, Adam was, I think, if remember correctly, was 770 years old. Just look at the book of genealogy, which is given in the Bible, and you'll see that the earliest humans, they had very long ages, like 600, 700, 800 years.
So my question is, Dr. Saleem, from what we understand, prophets like Hazrat Nuh and Hazrat Adam, if they were a part of the modern humans like us, they could have been about 10,000 years old. I mean, I don't know, I'm just asking. So that's how long humans lived, and then their lives started becoming shorter and shorter?
So remember, this is not a topic that relates to the Quran or religion. It's more a question that relates to anthropology or history or sociology. I mean, the Quran is not a book that's going to give you these details. It's not meant for this purpose. So it's just going to give you the facts and how these facts come to be so. So that's an investigation that needs to be done independently of the Quran.
So the year, like the year is the same as the current year. Like the current year we say is 354, if we take the Muslim calendar, 355 days. So the assumption when we say Hazrat Nuh was 950 years old was a year was the same span.
So we do believe that in those times it was the lunar calendar. So it was 950 lunar years. The Gregorian calendar, the calendar which relates to the sun, was introduced by Pope Gregory, and hence it is called the Gregorian calendar. So this is about, I think, 1500 years old. So the natural calendar which the Quran and ancient scriptures follow was the lunar calendar, because that was the easiest for them to do so.
That's 355 days, right?
That's 11 days short of the lunar of the solar year.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. And then another question I had was the kalmas that we follow or learn as children, what are they?
So these are basically products of the subcontinent. There is nothing in the Quran or any hadith. They are just teachings in which people have sort of given sentences, Arabic sentences to religious facts, so that they could be on the tips of every boy or girl that this is the basic message related to our aqidah that people should have in their minds and should not forget. Otherwise, they are not mentioned anywhere in the corpus of religion.